Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Live in studio with us is Matt Crane. Matt Crane serves as the executive director of the Colorado County Clerks Association, out with a new letter to Jared Polis saying that Tina Peters should not be transferred to federal prison and that she deserves to serve her time, that there's a lot of complicated issues here, in part how other county commissioners or clerks are treated as a result of what Tina was found guilty of. I have a different take on it, but not surprising. This is the show where disagreement happens. I think Tina Peters, in a state that's happy to let even violent criminals who have killed people out, Jared Polis doubling down on making sure Tina Peters stays in prison is a sign of the progressive worldview, which, you know, you can drive a truck into 28 cars and kill 4 people, will commute your sentence. If you're violent and try to kidnap a kid off a playground in Cherry Creek School District, you're not even brought up on trials. If you rape a child, you get probation. So I see the Democrat leadership of this state being soft on everybody else with the exception of Tina Peters. I think that demonstrates that it's politically motivated from my perspective. But Matt, from your perspective, she did the crime, she did the time. She must do the time.
Well, right. And as Republicans, we're the party of law and order. I agree with you. I don't like a lot of the things that you've talked about, some of the decisions that have been made in Democratic or progressive jurisdictions. But I think that, you know, when it's done right in a Republican jurisdiction, we should stand by that. We shouldn't say, well, you know what, they let him out, so now one of ours is in trouble, so let's get her out early too. Let's stay strong on law and order, like we say, let's walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
All right, lots of text messages. This one from Eli Bremer wants to know about the physical ballots in Mesa and if Tina had the right and ability to audit the actual physical ballots cast against the tabulation given and publicly reported. This could all be settled by counting the physical ballots and checking against the computer tabulations, right? Good question.
Sure. I mean, it's a great question from Eli. I appreciate that. That's another thing about this that's so infuriating. Tina did not have to lead this criminal exercise against the county, right? She didn't have to do that. She had a number of levers that she could have pulled to be able to do this. One, she could have just hand counted the ballots from 2020 or from that spring Grand Junction municipal election that she was concerned about. She could have gone back to the voter marked artifact and done a hand count of that election to see if there was something wrong or if there was any different vote totals. She didn't do that. Interestingly enough, Mike Lindell, who runs around the country, causing a lot of this chaos, he said he spent millions of dollars. Has he ever gone and paid to look at ballots in a jurisdiction and have them do a hand recount? No, he hasn't. And why is that? Because he knows that hand count would validate the machine count and it would blow up his argument and his grift. Look at the cyber ninjas, right? That even though that audit was a disgrace, their hand count still showed that the machine count was accurate. So all of this, it's just a ruse. Also, if she wanted to back up these Windows operating system logs, which are not election records required for retention under federal or state law. But if she wanted to, she could have done like Clerk Angela Myers in Larimer County did. You know what? She wasn't sure if she should. You know what she did, Jeff? She called the Secretary of State's office and they walked her through backing up those logs. So Tina did not choose to do anything. She chose to turn off her cameras. She chose to, create a false identity for somebody to go in on a Sunday when nobody else was there and steal this image of her voting system. She could have done it all in the light of day, and she didn't do that. She committed, I think it was 4 felonies, not 3, and 3 misdemeanors. It's either 3 or 4 or 4 or 3. She did that. She deserves the time. There are other ways to do this.
Matt Crane, Executive Director, Colorado County Clerks Association, taking your calls. Let's go to Ken DeGraff. Good morning, Ken. You're on with Jeff and Bill and Matt.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, Matt, this is a great conversation. It's very enlightening. You went just to go back to something that you'd mentioned. It seemed like it was accusatory before about mentioning about Dominion. I mean, nobody working for or with Dominion. I mean, nobody's making any accusations. I mean, certainly with your wife having worked for Dominion for 2 decades, that doesn't prove anything to anybody, but it certainly does raise the level of, it raises the issue of confirmation bias when I mean, biblically, you'd say, somebody can't serve two masters. But so no, I mean, to go right to the assumption that somebody's making an accusation, it's just to raise a question. But my main question is, I'm looking at these charges. I keep looking at them against Tina, and her testimony is that she was a true believer in this system, 100%. And then when they said, "Hey, we are going to come and do a backup on the system," she said, "Well, I've got to do that." She, according to her, she did contact the Secretary of State to find out how to do that, and that was denied. So when I'm looking at these charges or these convictions against her, they're all basically for circumventing the Secretary's records. Now, you say they're all there, but I have a letter from the Secretary of State that says they routinely delete records. And as a matter of course, because the law is quite clear that absolutely all of the records be maintained. That means error files, that means log files, that means pop-up messages, it means the operating system, it means absolutely every aspect of those records needs to be maintained, and the SOS has sent to me in writing that they do not do that. So when she backs up these records, it's not a matter of being able to back up the records to reproduce the election results. It's a matter of being able to back up not even just back up, but to maintain. And the law actually says with FISMA that it says it has to be maintained on the actual device in an unchanged manner. I mean, that makes it very complicated. But I think you're simplifying this, that her conviction was, and to say that the data, didn't prove anything, but that wasn't the case. The data, what she had to do was back up those records, and for whatever reason, she felt
Matt,
that this was the only way she could do it.
Representative DeGraff, thank you. Go
Representative,
ahead,
I appreciate your call and your question. I think, though, unfortunately, you've gotten a lot of details wrong here. First of all, operating system logs are not considered election records under federal and state law. That's just not true. I know a lot of people think that. We can have an argument whether they should be. That's not true. State law clearly delineates what is an election record and what is not. So that part's not true.
Law.
Same thing with federal law. It is not there, and most states that I'm aware of do not consider operating system logs election records. So that's the first point. Secondly, Tina is not in jail for backing up records. At the time she did that, she could have gotten an image of her voting system. She could have done that and preserved that. That wasn't illegal. It's still not illegal now. You have to get Secretary of State approval, unfortunately, to be able to do that. But it wasn't illegal then. So taking an image isn't illegal. What is illegal is creating false credentials for somebody to go into your election facility to make the backup, and then letting that backup get out in the wild like that. So the way that you're presenting this, I appreciate it, and I know you're a supporter of Tina, but you're not serving people right by the way you're representing this issue. Tina could have backed up the system. She could have all of those records, even the ones that aren't considered election records. She didn't choose to do it in a legal manner, and that's why she's in jail. And the longer that we talk about that, and the longer we say, well, she was just doing her job. She was just backing up records. No, she was not doing her job. Her job wasn't to turn the cameras off. Her job wasn't to create false credentials. Her job wasn't to sneak somebody in. Her job wasn't to put the voting system online to allow that to get out online. So please, I'm asking you, Representative, stop misrepresenting what's happening here. It's not helping election integrity in Colorado. It's not helping the Republican Party. We have to talk the truth about this. Tina is not in jail for backing up her system. That's just pure. That's just hogwash. It's ridiculous.
Representative DeGraff, your response, sir.
Well, I'd say what she's in jail for is circumventing the Secretary of State's prevention of backing up the records. I'd like to know.
That's not true, sir. That is not true. And as far as the gold standard goes, I think you'd be better served by having
by having this debate in public and having it continually in public, and then bringing this all into the open. El Paso County, there were 5 elections a couple years ago that wanted to be hand counted, and at the expense of the losing party, and it was denied all the way up to the Supreme Court. So when you say that a hand count can be done, the precedent is that a hand count is not allowed. It would have been a lot faster. It would have been a lot cheaper than the path that they chose. But the gold, if it's a gold standard, we really need to have. I think part of this is that you need to have. You're better served in any information by having Tina Peters out of jail and having these conversations, having these things, because you're just fueling the fire, any fire on one side or the other by keeping her in prison, a nonviolent offender.
Sir, I would say respectfully, you're fueling the fire by continuing to push out things that aren't true.
No,
I think you're conflating the issue around the hand count. Elbert County did a hand count after the 2020 in May of 2021 to validate. You can do a hand count after the certification to see if there's a problem, right? Tina is not in jail just for, I think part of it is I don't have the charges up, the conviction up in front of me, but part of it was for, I think, a conspiracy to steal somebody's identity. She created false credentials to sneak somebody in to do this image. That's not just flaunting the rules of the Secretary of State's office. The longer that you and people like you, sir, respectfully go on and talk about this in a way that's not true, it's not helpful, it hurts election integrity, and it's killing the Republican Party. And I implore you, please stop framing this in a way that makes Tina look like a hero.
Well, what I would like to do is I would like to get the actual answers, because I have
you
my
have
letter.
them. You just don't like them. That's the difference.
No, you're making that assumption that I don't like them. What I'm trying to get to, when I have a letter from the Secretary of State that goes through and delineates how they actually delete records on a regular basis.
But what you're not saying, sir, is that those records are retained. They are retained. The county does backups before every trusted bill. They back up all of the records on those files. During an election, counties go in every day and back up those election records from the voting system. I think you know this. At least I hope you do. If you do and you're not including this in the conversation, sir, then shame on you. Those files are retained every day during an election.
I'm including everything that is known, and that's why I think it's better to have. You need to have people like, in this case, I think whistleblower is accurate. She doesn't need to have for the Federal Whistleblower Protection Act, she doesn't need to be proven.
She's not accurate. A whistleblower, sir. She's not a whistleblower. No, she didn't know her job. No, she didn't know her job. There is nothing in those reports that wasn't known, or that the third report identified a mistake their staff made, and then they went about the right way to correct the mistake. There was no crime that she revealed in Mesa County. There was nothing wrong or inappropriate about what the trusted bill did. The records required for retention were retained. Clerks have been telling you this. I suspect Chuck Berman and Steve Schleicher, I suspect they've been telling you this. Right? So if you're not listening to them and you're listening to Tina Peters, you are doing this wrong.
No, I'm listening and going through the record of the letter, the letter that was sent to me by the Secretary of State for a previous complaint about election records being deleted, and the letter that explains that they delete records that they have been shown not to need. And the FISMA standards and all that, they say that all records need to be retained, not just those records that are needed to reproduce the election results, but all records, all pop-ups, all error message, all log files. And the letter that the Secretary of State sent me goes through, delineates how some of those records are not required to be retained, but the FISMA standards say they are.
Well,
So
I'm
that's
not.
where I have,
Well,
that's where I have an
FSMA
issue.
standards are not law, right? They're just standards, and I'm not aware of any. There might be, but I'm not aware of any other state that treats those operating system logs as election records. Now, can we have a conversation? Should they be? Sure, let's do it. But they weren't. That they aren't. They weren't in 2020, and those are the facts. And the records that are required for retention were backed up. Those are the facts. Tina turned off the cameras and let somebody in. She broke the law. Those are the facts.
Can I ask a little bit more of a basic question? Because you guys are definitely into the into the weeds on this. Representative DeGraff, do you think that when a ballot goes into a machine that it either miscounts it or ignores it, and that's deliberate here in Colorado?
I don't. Well, you don't know, for one. I think the machines are capable of counting the ballots accurately. I think they're capable, but you also have the software issues and what's done with it afterwards. And you have to be able to verify that, and the only way to verify that transparently would be to have a post-election audit. I've been working on this for several years now, trying to get a system where people could verify their votes, and they could have trust in the transparency of the election. But it's not a matter so much of the machines, but you also have you have the former president, the former vice president, you have Elizabeth Warren, you have a number of people talking regularly about the hackability of these machines, and they are hackable. There's no place that these are used that you can that any computer system is unhackable. We know that.
But with respect, that's why they're not connected to the internet during the time of voting, because then you have to be in the room in order to hack them. This idea that someone from Venezuela or Italy hacked into the system is complete bupkis. And the voting systems, the machines themselves, are a double-blind accounting system. They create an electronic tabulation, and they create a paper tabulation. There's a firewall between the two counting systems. They don't talk to each other. And the easiest thing to look at when you talk about it, Representative DeGraff, as to whether or not these machines are funky, would be at the end count at the end of the night. If your electronic count does not match your paper count, that tells you the machine is funky. The paper count is done directly off the ballot, and the electronic count is done after it reads the machine. So your numbers would be different. You would have 550 on one side and 437 on the other side if it was funky. And if you got in and hacked it and you had to switch a large portion of votes, you also would see that in either the electronic or the paper side of things, because you would have to see a change in the number systems, meaning you could go back through the operating system, and some of that is preserved, and see that here are 500 votes that were switched to the other side. It would be easily identifiable inside the system.
Matt's got to jump here, so let's give Matt the final word. Representative DeGraff, I sure appreciate you calling in and being part of the debate today. Go ahead, Matt.
I do, Representative DeGraff. Thank you. I appreciate the questions. I think that, look, election officials, as I said earlier, we are always open to conversations about how to improve our systems, to make them more accurate, to make them more secure. But those conversations have to start in a place of fact. Right? They can't start based on false narratives and all of that kind of thing. And when we talk about this, we have to do it in such a way where we are talking about things that really happen. Such as we do back up the records that are required for retention currently under law. If you want to have a conversation about should we include those other records, great. Let's sit down and let's have that conversation. But when it comes to the base fact of what we're here talking about today, Tina turned off the lights. She snuck somebody into her office and got to get that image of her voting system. She broke the law. She didn't have to do that. She could have gotten the image and done it. She could have had somebody in her office. She could have called me. I could have helped her through or connected her with somebody who could have, done the image. She could have done what Larimer County did and called the Secretary of State's office to walk her through that. So, Tina is in jail because she broke the law. She broke the law during the time that she got. But as always, we are happy to talk to you, sir, about ways that we can improve our election system. But let's just stay where the facts are and not go into all this other garbage.
Matt Crane, Executive Director, Colorado County Clerks Association, live in studio. Appreciate your time this morning,
Jeff.
sir.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
sir.
Now
thanks
it's time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment. Hey, good morning. Monday morning, 37 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 57 today. It's really, really nice outside this morning. Get out there and walk. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, 47, will soon roll out a new proposal regarding rising healthcare costs caused by the expiration of Obamacare. Those subsidies are due to expire at the end of the year, and the administration is looking to head off a spike in premiums. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says substantial progress has been made during talks with Ukrainian officials aimed at ending the war between Russia and Ukraine,
confirming that there would be changes to the much-discussed 28-point peace plan that many felt originally favored Russia. Rubio also indicated that President Trump's deadline of the 27th of November for Kyiv to accept the peace plan was flexible.
Ross Cohen reports the DJT had previously given Ukraine less than a week to agree to a 28-point peace plan. Buckle up. It's one of the busiest travel weeks of the year, and CDOT officials urging patience on the roads this week. More than 80 million Americans are going to travel over the next few days.
AAA says more than 6 million people will be traveling at the nation's airports over the Thanksgiving holiday period, a slight increase from last year. This woman having a tough time at Newark Airport.
Our original flight home got canceled, so we got another flight, and we're unfortunately not making it to that one.
Airlines say they're confident they'll be able to handle the extra holiday volume this week following mass cancellations during the government shutdown.
The strategy here is to get early.
As far as the roads go, AAA says the busiest times are the afternoon and early evening period in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New York.
King of the Hill, Park Hill, that is, Park Hill, Denver. The Basketball Hall of Famer from Denver, Chauncey Billups, expected to plead not guilty to federal charges today. He's accused of helping lure players unaware of what was going on into rigged poker games. The indictment alleges the games were financed by organized crime families. New York City Mayor-elect Kami Dani met with DJT, of course, on Friday and still says he's a fascist. Kami Dani made, that's my little name for him, made the comment during an interview with NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. This conservative thinks Tina Peters should stay in jail. Matt Crane, Executive Director, Colorado County Clerks Association, in the studio with Jeff and Billy today.
Her actions have created a cascading effect for clerks across the state. You have 63 other clerks who did things the right way. They didn't violate their oath of office. They didn't break the law. They didn't turn their cameras off. They didn't sneak somebody into the office. They didn't allow a copy of their voting system to get online to where bad actors can now dissect it and look for ways to try to get in and do nefarious things if they get physical access to those components. They didn't run around saying things that weren't true, like the election was stolen, or issue reports that says, oh, look at my voting system and all of these nefarious things in the voting system.
Now it's on Governor Polis to commute the case. Of course, supporters for Peters say that she's not guilty and has done enough time, a 9-year sentence. DJT maintaining his criticism for Democratic lawmakers, including Colorado's Jason Crow, who reminded military members to ignore unlawful orders last week. In a pair of posts over the weekend, 47 said those lawmakers should be in jail right now and that it was sedition at its highest level. The holiday season getting underway at the White House. Later today, First Lady Melania Trump will take delivery of the Blue Room Christmas tree, picked this year from Michigan. Also happening this week, DJT will pardon a couple of turkeys from North Carolina in the annual Thanksgiving tradition. Avs in Chicago on Sunday in a big game. Let's see.
Turnover, Nielsen holds and looks and shoots, saved by Knight. Shot by McCarr, he scores! Cale McCarr! What an incredible shot off the post and in!
1-zip Colorado, 9 straight victories for the Avalanche. Scott Wedgwood, 22 saves, his first shutout. And NFL on Sunday, Shedeur Sanders, his first start at quarterback for the Browns. Just an ugly game. However, Shedeur managed it well. A couple nice, really nice balls, threw it well, and they worked well together. The coordinator, the head coach, and Shedeur, and they win it 24-10. As Shedeur talks after the game.
There's no choice, there's no question. Nobody cares if this was 1 week of prep. Who cares? You know, so a lot of people want to see me fail, and that ain't going to happen. You know, it ain't going to happen.
Time will tell. 34 in Westminster, 33 in Littleton, 36 in Denver. You are waking up with Jeff and Billy on Thanksgiving week on a Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Your 710 KNUS forecast this early Monday. Some passing clouds this morning, temperatures around 35 by daybreak. For the rest of your Monday, mostly sunny skies, highs in the mid to upper 50s. A few clouds tonight, lows in the upper 20s. Tuesday and Wednesday, sunny, highs in the 40s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Let my Tina go, Bill Thorpe.
Yes.
Wild hour
fun.
and a half. Thank you to Matt for being in.
That was cool. He spent the time with us, and
Yeah,
thanks for
Matt
everybody
Crane,
that text messages and the
Executive
phone
Director, Colorado County Clerks Association. We also have the best texters out there reminding
fantastic.
all of you that there's a speed tramp at Wadsworth in Kentucky.
Uh-oh.
Thank you,
Watch out.
3674.
Thank you.
All right. That thing went right into the elections of 2020, which is absolutely part of the conversation. I'm not discounting that. For me, though, and the point of disagreement that I have with the county clerk's letter, I disagree with Matt's take that somehow because Mesa County is a conservative county that found her guilty and sentenced her, that we have to respect that it was a conservative county. Because the question at this point is with Jared Polis as to whether or not you commute. Jared Polis makes that decision. And Jared Polis has plenty of evidence that he's willing to commute sentences. You just have to be a Kardashian. If you remember the lady or the dude that drove his semi-truck after missing lots of off-ramps down I-70, those emergency truck ramps, plows into 28 cars, kills 4 people, gets sentenced to over 100 years, and Jared Polis commutes that to 10, just about the same amount of time that Tina Peters is serving. He'll likely get out before that. So we have examples of the governor commuting sentences on a number of cases. We have plenty of DAs, judges that seem perfectly fine allowing somebody who's violent out onto the streets so that our physical safety is at threat, yet Tina Peters somehow has to serve the fullness of her sentence in state custody. It just reeks of what I think is one of the commandments of being a leftist, which is violent criminals walk free, your political opponents serve long jail sentences.
Yeah, see, I don't think she's going to serve all 9 years because she will be up for parole as well. So the idea that she's going to have to serve all 9, I don't think that's going to happen. I also think that the gnashing of teeth as far as why to send her to federal prison is just crap. They can't make a really good argument. I mean, one of the things that was thrown out in the last 5 or 6 days was that it's going to be easier for the feds to talk to her when they're investigating election fraud. She's in jail because of that. I don't think you got to talk to her about that. It's a silly game. The other part is that I always push back, and we had a couple of people that called. We got some text messages that this was a Democrat political persecution in Republican Mesa County, where you had a Republican district attorney, and she helped choose her own jury. She was able to present her own arguments in the case.
Yeah, but aren't you jumping back to 2020? Like, what about right now? And the fact that, I was watching Fox 31 last night. Somebody who had committed vehicular homicide was getting out after 2 years.
Well,
and the whole family was upset, and they said that the justice system in Colorado re-victimizes people over and over and over again. So it seems like everybody's getting out, with the exception of Tina Peters.
Here's the thing is that if you meet any sort of a defendant after they've been convicted, every single one of them to a T will tell you, my sentence wasn't equal. It wasn't fair. Somebody else got another sentence doing something else and they're out earlier. Somebody else did but that's part of the sentencing procedure. In fact, here's the thing that is strange, is that we oftentimes hear, hey, the best thing about living in those Republican counties is they hold people accountable. You're not going to, like in the Democrat counties where they let all the prisoners walk free. She was in a Republican county. And then all of a sudden, the law came down a little harder on her, as we talk about in Republican counties, and now it's an issue. Now it's some sort of an issue. Now we want leniency inside of the Republican counties.
This letter is to Jared Polis.
Yeah.
Why won't Jared Polis commute her sentence?
I don't know. I'm not Jared Polis, but that's a question for him. And again, you're asking for him and based on his decisions. And hang on a sec, but
I'm
you're also looking
at
for
examples.
I know,
He's
but
let people out.
I know, but what you're looking for is equality or equity on those, and I don't think you can point to that in any sort of equality or equity based on either commutations or pardons based on any administration, either statewide or national. And so it is always done based on the whims of the person that is in charge. That's how our pardon commutation system is set up. We can revamp that and talk about what it should look like, but that's what the system is. And it's always going to be unequal.
I'm asking for equality before the law. That's all.
In what way do you mean by?
And in this case, the law, which allows the governor to commute sentences, the governor seems perfectly fine to commute people that have killed people. But Tina Peters, she has to serve the entirety of her sentence.
So the argument
doesn't seem like it's equal.
Okay, so equality under the law is if you're sentenced for longer than 9 years, the governor should commute your sentence. What equality you're looking for?
I'm trying to figure out why Tina Peters has got to serve the entirety of her sentence when violent criminals aren't, and you have examples of Jared Polis.
We don't know if she's going to serve her entire sentence. We have no idea. She's up for parole. We don't know. The assumption she's going to serve her entire sentence, especially given the fact that many times in state sentences are much more malleable, and you get out a lot earlier than if you're in a Fed sentence. So the feds are real serious about when they send you to prison. State, remember just in the last election cycle or so, we had Common Sense Institute in here talking about the lack of people fulfilling their sentences. We had the whole law about violent criminals should fulfill what percentage of their sentence.
Right. Yeah. We passed that whole ballot initiative.
Yeah. So this happens. Yes. That's the system.
I'm not seeing it with Tina Peters. Instead, it's no. I mean, this is the letter we have from the Clerks Association that what she's done is terrible. And this sends a message to all Coloradans, to the nation, and to every public servant watching that this state does not abandon those who do what is right. Courage, integrity, and the law still mean something here. I mean, I appreciate Matt coming in, but courage, integrity, and the law still mean something here. And then the other problem I have is that in my review and analysis, you have no letters from the Clerks Association with regards to Tina Peters or Jenna Griswold inerrantly releasing BIOS passwords, embarrassing the state with a 9-0 shutdown at the U.S. Supreme Court, taking her marching orders from the Planned Parenthood. Don't see it. All right, let's get to Jim in Westminster. Good morning, Jim. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yes, I just want to comment about the voting system. You know, I know someone that moved out of Colorado for about 3 years, and they still getting a ballot.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that.
We tried to send it, tell them they no longer was a resident. They sent it back, saying, well, you don't have a signature on it. They didn't even fill out the ballot. They just sent in the thing and saying they was no longer a resident. And they said they might do an investigation because there wasn't no signature on it. They don't live in Colorado anymore. So all this, and people can show up same day and vote. Why can't we use a voter ID? It's a joke.
Yeah,
you know?
I understand that. I understand that, Jim. But are you telling me that you think IDs can't be hacked, reproduced, or fraudulent? And that's the idea.
Of course not.
And okay,
but it's a level of security.
But hang on. If we agree, again, remember the premise is that there is some sort of a large cabal that is trying to gather, because that's the theory, that they're trying to do this as an organized effort in order to sway the electoral votes. And if we think that this large organized cabal that evidently had enough, according to some conspiracy theorists, the wherewithal to print fake ballots, have them delivered, hack into voting machines, get fake registrations, we assume they're not going to produce fake IDs. I'm sorry. Again, I'm with you. I'm okay with a voter ID. I just don't think that it solves the problem we think it does, given the people that advocate for it are willing to believe all the other stuff. If all the other stuff are true, the fake ID doesn't stop it because the cabal is going to produce fake IDs. If they can hack the system, if they can make up fake ballots, if they can do all of that and get fake voter registrations, they can make fake IDs. They can do it. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't solve
Yeah.
the problem. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that it doesn't solve the problem everybody's angry about.
Well, I think, a lot of people died for to have the right to vote. And you can show up with a public service bill, say, yeah, yes, all that kind of stuff. See, it's not as good as they pretend as it is, and I know about these things. And I know, and another thing I want to add to this, with the Tina Peterson thing. Maybe she did something wrong, but I think what Jason Crow did is even worse, because I'm an ex-military person, and I think somebody, you could overthrow the government with some kind of crap like that, and I think that's, if you don't go to jail for that, well, Katie bar the door.
Yeah, I understand, Jim.
I appreciate
but
that.
Let's understand that Tina stole someone's ID, created fake IDs, turned off computer systems, and did things, and then took information out of the secure location inside of the voting area in which she was responsible for. And Jason Crow made a video. I'm just saying that
encouraging essentially a coup d'etat with the military.
One person created a criminal conspiracy that was to break the law that included identity theft, and the other one posted a video. Again, I think they're of different degrees.
Yeah.
They're of different
I agree
degrees.
with Jim.
Yeah, one's
what
just a
Crow
video.
did was very, very bad. All right, let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. By the way, Dan looks great. I don't even know what age he is, but 40 years of service to getting justice for the people of Colorado. That's quite a tenure, and Dan looks great out there. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLISLaw.com. Dave Golden, you'll be up next. Text messages super hot. It's called the Uniparty. Bill, the money machine that wants to retain control. 3792.
So Tina's part of the Uniparty?
2983.
That's weird.
They don't need voter ID to catch people who submitted ballots of their dead relatives. That would require cleaning up the voter rolls.
Yeah, but then again, we backed out a lot of states backed out of ERIC, which was the one system at the time that was universal that would allow you to cross-check voter registrations through many states. And those states that pulled out of ERIC, making it less secure, were Republican states after the voter fraud conspiracy theory. So if we were worried about it, you would look at a system like ERIC and you would try to strengthen it. You wouldn't yank yourself out of it. If you were really at your core concerned about voter fraud and voters in other states, that was the one database that existed at the time that helped with that. And then people decided, nah, done. So I disagree that we're really concerned about people from other states voting, especially when Republican states pull out of systems like that. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
ILJ, I love Jim on there, a common sense man. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Dave, you're next.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Colorado, again, at the center of a national conversation around Tina Peters. So the president's putting pressure on Jared Polis to transfer her to federal custody. What do you think he does? Bill, what do you think the gov does? This is his decision at this point.
Yeah, she sits. I would wait until the parole process, etc. And again, if it's a health issue, then she has ways to file paperwork and other things on that end. So if that's the issue, that she's just of frail health and needs to be let out, there are processes and procedures. So until then, I see no reason to, and let the parole system function as it may.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Dave and Golden. Good morning, Dave. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. First caveat that I have never voted for a Democrat in my life. Not a registered Republican either, because they're just disillusioned and chaos. So, but my own definition to your point earlier about equity versus equality, my definition of equity is that it is wanting an outcome that you did not deserve. And that's where I think all of this talk of trying to get Tina Peters off is about. She was convicted by a jury of her peers. She clearly did wrong. And it's something that needs to be addressed. And to Bill, your point, in a Republican county, like whether it's Douglas County or Mesa County or wherever it is, they are holding their criminals to a higher standard. And that is what we want. And the other counties should be stepping up to those standards, not.
Yeah, Dave, I appreciate your commitment to law and order. Believe me, I do. My question is about Jared Polis. Why Jared Polis commutes some people and not others? That's where the decision. But that's where the decision lies right now. That's where the president is putting the pressure, is with Jared Polis, and he has examples of commuting people that have killed other people, but won't commute Tina Peters. Why?
Because he's Jared Polis in a Democratic state, and that's where we are. So,
but that's my point. That this is then a political issue. The incarceration and the length of Tina Peters' incarceration is a political issue.
But the problem isn't with Jared Polis and the Democrats in the state. The problem is with the Republicans in the state that can't get their act together. That's where we are right now, and I'm frustrated by it. I mean, I was doing committee work and stuff like that when Coors was running back in the 70s, and I was a kid in Jeffco, and it just has gone beyond the ridiculous of how bad our party, and I'm including that in me, even though I'm a registered independent, how bad the party has gotten. And
Dave, I don't disagree, but the point that is being made right now is that Tina Peters is remaining incarcerated because of
guilty.
her politics.
Because she's guilty.
But Jared Polis doesn't keep people in jail just because they're guilty.
All right. Okay, so this is to my second point on this, Jeff, is that TDS is real on both sides of the aisle, both left and right. TDS is real. And you and Blake are in it. So that's all I need to say.
All right, Dave, appreciate the call. Look, I think we've proved our point, that you have examples out there of Jared Polis commuting people that have actually done acts that resulted in the loss of life, and yet he's going to stand strong on Tina Peters. And that's not the result of where she was convicted. It's not even the result of the crime she committed. is the result of her political affiliation.
I'm just hearing
Prove me wrong.
I'm just hearing that because Governor Polis did this, then everything else has to be held to that bar. So everybody else should be able to get out by that level. So everyone's sentence should be brought down to 10 years.
I just haven't. I haven't heard an example. I haven't heard.
That would be equal.
I haven't heard a response from Governor Polis's office as to justifying the full incarceration level of Tina Peters while allowing people that have actually killed other people out. I just haven't heard an answer. All right, let's talk Mountain High Appliance. Discover incredible savings at Mountain High Appliance's Clearance Center in Denver. Their Clearance Center offers a huge selection of ranges, refrigerators, washers, dryers, and more. Save up to 60% on open box, scratch, and dent display models and overstocked appliances from Bosch, Thermador, KitchenAid, and many more. When you're looking for great deals on appliances, think Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center for the best prices ever and selection. You got to go check out Mountain High Appliance. Here's their address, 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver, 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver. When we return, MTG taking the exit, taking a hike.
Yeah.
She's done. She was resigned effective January from her role in Congress. What do you think happened? And what do you think the future for Marjorie Taylor Greene is? Do you remember when her and Lauren Boebert were BFFs?
Oh, yeah.
And they would yell during the State of the Union, the good old days.
Yeah. The idea that last week we saw Trump meeting cordially with Mamdani in the Oval Office and MTG takes shots at Trump and leaves. The hell timeline is this and what happens?
The craziness continues. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We're News Talk 710 KNUS. We'll be right back.